Captain Lee Taemin sat in the command chair of the human ship Indomitable. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. His crew worked at their stations, checking systems and watching space around them. They had been patrolling the outer edge of human space for 3 weeks now. Nothing exciting had happened. Lee Taemin was a tall man with dark hair and serious eyes. He had served in the human military for 15 years. His uniform was clean and pressed. He wore the rank of captain with pride. The other species in the galaxy still looked at humans with suspicion. They called Earth a death world. They said humans were too dangerous to trust completely. Dr. Park Soo-jin worked at the science station. She was studying samples from their last mission. Her long black hair was tied back in a neat ponytail. She wore a white lab coat over her blue uniform. She was the best scientist on the ship. She could figure out almost any problem with living things. Sergeant Kim Do-hyun checked his weapons in the armory. He was a big man with strong arms and a square jaw. His soldiers respected him. They called him Sergeant Kim. He had fought in many battles. He knew how to keep his team alive in dangerous places. Lieutenant Commander Choi Bo Ram sat at the navigation station. She was smart and quick. Her fingers moved fast over the controls. She could plot a course through space better than anyone. She had short hair and bright eyes. She always smiled when she worked. The ship was quiet until the communication system made a loud beeping sound. The noise cut through the silence like a knife. Everyone on the bridge looked up from their work. "Captain," said the communication. "Officer, we are getting a signal from deep space. It is very weak, but it is there." Lee Taemin stood up from his chair. "Put it on the main screen." The front screen flickered with static. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was high and musical but full of fear. The words were in the common galactic language that all species used. "This is Elder Keth Essay of the Villani people. We are dying. Our world is being consumed by something we cannot stop. It eats everything it touches. Our cities are gone. Our forests are gone. We have tried everything we know. Nothing works. We are down to our last few thousand people. If anyone can hear this message, please help us. We do not have much time left." The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at the screen. Dr. Park Soo-jin spoke. "First, the Villani are one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. They have the best medical technology anywhere. If they cannot solve this problem, then it must be very bad." Lee Taemin nodded. He had heard of the Villani. They were peaceful plant-eaters who lived on a beautiful world called the Sara Prime. They were known for being kind and wise. They had never hurt anyone. They spent their time making art and studying nature. "How far away are they?" asked Lee Tae-min. Choi Bo Ram checked her instruments. "The signal came from the outer rim of the galaxy. It would take us 2 weeks to reach them at maximum speed." "That is a long way to go for a maybe," said Kim Do-hyun. "We do not even know if they are still alive." Lee Taemin thought about this. The Villani had helped other species many times. They had shared their medical knowledge freely. They had never asked for anything in return. They deserved help if they needed it. "Send a message to Fleet Command," said Lee Taemin. "Tell them about the Villani distress call. Ask for permission to investigate." The communication officer sent the message. They waited for 2 hours before getting an answer. The reply came from Admiral Wong back on Earth. "Negative on the investigation. The Galactic Federation Council must discuss this first. Do not leave your patrol area. That is an order." Lee Taemin frowned. The Federation Council could take weeks to make a decision. By then, the Villani might all be dead. Dr. Park Soo-jin had been working on the signal. She looked up from her station with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, I have been studying the transmission. I found some biological data hidden in the background noise. Whatever is attacking the Villani is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to be some kind of living organism that consumes other life forms." She put a picture on the main screen. It showed microscopic creatures that looked like tiny monsters. They had many arms and sharp teeth. They moved fast and seemed to eat everything around them. These things are incredible, said Dr. Park Soo-jin. They adapt to any defense. They learn and change. The Villani tried to fight them with medicine, but the creatures just became immune to everything. Kim Do-hyun looked at the picture. They look like the flesh-eating bacteria from the swamps back on Earth, but bigger and smarter. Lee Tae-min studied. The data, an idea began to form in his mind. Earth was a death world. Humans had evolved to survive in a place where everything tried to kill them. They had experience with dangerous organisms that other species did not have, Dr. Park, said Lee Tae-min. In your opinion, could we help the Villani with this problem? The doctor. Park Soo-jin thought for a moment. Maybe. We have dealt with similar organisms on Earth. Our immune systems are much stronger than theirs. We know how to fight biological threats. But we would need to get there first. Another message came from Fleet Command. This time it was not from Admiral Wong, it was from the Federation Council itself. The Villani situation is being reviewed. Several species have offered assistance. The Council will make a decision within 2 weeks. All human ships are ordered to remain in their assigned areas. Lee Tae-min felt angry. 2 weeks was too long. The Villani would be extinct by then. He looked around the bridge at his crew. They all had the same expression on their faces. They wanted to help, but they had orders to follow. Captain, said Choi Bo-ram quietly, there is something else you should know. I have been monitoring Federation communications. The other species are not really trying to help. They think the situation is hopeless. They are afraid that whatever killed the Villani might spread to other worlds. Lee Tae-min was not surprised. Most species in the galaxy were afraid of biological threats. They had evolved on safe worlds where nothing dangerous lived. They did not know how to deal with problems like this, but humans were different. They came from a world where danger lived everywhere. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. They knew how to adapt and fight and survive when everything seemed hopeless. Lee Tae-min made his decision. He turned to his crew. We are going to help the Villani, he said. I know we have orders to stay here. But sometimes doing the right thing is more important than following orders. His crew smiled. They had been hoping he would say that. Dr. Park, prepare everything we might need for a biological crisis. Kim, get your team ready for anything. Troy, plot a course for the Sara Prime, maximum speed. The Indomitable turned toward the outer rim of the galaxy. Its engines roared to life. The human ship raced through space toward a dying world and a desperate people who had no one else to turn to. Behind them, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another star in the darkness. Ahead of them waited the unknown. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Visara system. Captain Lee Tae-min stood on the bridge looking at the main screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Sara Prime had once been called the Garden of the Galaxy. The planet was famous for its beautiful forests and crystal cities. Now it looked like a nightmare. The entire surface was covered in a sickly green and brown mass that pulsed like a giant heart. Strange growths reached up from the planet like twisted fingers. My God, whispered Dr. Park Soo-jin. What happened to this place? Lieutenant Commander Choi Bo-ram checked her sensors. I am reading massive biological activity across the entire planet. Whatever this thing is, it has consumed almost everything. The communication system crackled to life. A weak voice spoke in the musical language of the Villani. Unknown vessel, this is the last sanctuary of the Sara Prime. Please identify yourself. Are you here to help us or to study our death? Lee Tae-min stepped forward. This is Captain Lee Tae-min of the human ship Indomitable. We received your distress call. We are here to help. There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again with surprise. Humans? The Deathworlders? We did not think anyone would come. Especially not your kind. We are in the southern biodome. It is the only clean place left on our world. Choi Bo-ram found the location on her screen. A small bubble of normal land sat in the middle of the infected wasteland. It glowed with artificial light like a tiny island in a dark sea. Permission to land in your sanctuary? Asked Lee Tae-min. Granted, but be careful. The blight learns from everything it touches. Do not let it get samples of your biology. The Indomitable flew down through the poisoned atmosphere. The air itself looked sick. Green clouds swirled around their ship. Strange flying creatures that looked like diseased birds tried to attack their hull. They landed in a clearing near the biodome. Through the transparent walls they could see gardens and buildings that still looked normal. But outside the dome, the blight pressed against the barriers like a living wall. Lee Tae-min took a small team to meet the Villani. Dr. Park Soo-jin came to study the biological threat. Sergeant Kim Do-hyun came for security. They wore full protective suits and carried scanners. The airlock opened and they stepped into the biodome. The air smelled like flowers and growing things. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. This small space was all that remained of an entire civilization. An elderly Villani approached them. He was tall and thin with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. His face showed deep sadness and exhaustion. He wore simple robes that had once been white but were now stained with dirt and worry. "I am Elder Kefese," he said in perfect human language. "I am the last member of our High Council. Thank you for coming, though I fear you are too late." "We are here to help," said Lee Tae-min. "Tell us what happened." Elder Kefese led them through the dome. They passed gardens where Villani tended plants with careful hands. Children played quietly in small groups. Everyone looked tired and afraid. "6 months ago, something fell from space," said Elder Kefese. "We thought it was a meteor. But when we went to study it, we found something alive inside. It was small at first. Just a few cells." Our scientists were excited. We had never seen anything like it. They stopped at a viewing window that looked out at the blight. The mass of infected material pulsed and moved. Strange shapes formed and dissolved in its surface. "We tried to study it safely," continued Elder Kefese, "but it was too smart. It escaped from every container we built. It learned from our defenses. Every time we created a new barrier, it found a way through." Dr. Park Soo-jin took readings with her scanner. "How fast did it spread?" "Faster than we could believe," said Elder Kefese. "It consumed our capital city. In 3 days, our forests were gone in a week. It ate everything, plants, animals, even our buildings. Then it started to change what it had consumed into something new." A young Villani female approached them. She had the same pale blue skin as Elder Kefese, but her eyes burned with determination. She carried a bag of scientific instruments. "This is Healer Morveng," said Elder Kefese. "She has been studying the blight longer than anyone." Morveng bowed to the humans. "I have tried everything I know," she said. "The blight is not just alive, it is intelligent. It watches us, it learns from us. Every medicine we create, every defense we build, it finds a way to defeat them." She showed them samples of the infected material. Under the microscope, it looked like a war zone. Millions of tiny creatures fought and ate each other constantly. But they were all working together. Somehow. "It is like a single organism made of many parts," said Morveng. "But each part can think and adapt on its own. We have never seen anything like it in nature." Sergeant Kim Do-hyun had been quiet during the conversation. Now he spoke up. "How many of your people are left?" Elder Kefese looked sad. "Less than 10,000. We once numbered in the billions. The blight consumed the rest. But not just their bodies. It learned from their minds too. It knows our weaknesses now." Dr. Park Soo-jin studied the data that Morveng had collected. Her face grew serious as she read the results. "Captain," she said, quietly, "this is not a natural organism. Someone made this thing. The genetic structure is too perfect, too organized. This is a biological weapon." Lee Tae-min felt a chill run down his spine. A weapon? Who would create something like this? "I do not know," said Dr. Park Soo-jin. "But whoever made it designed it to consume entire worlds. And it is still learning, still growing stronger." Elder Kefese overheard their conversation. "We suspected the same thing. In our ancient records there are stories of a race called the Devourers. They lived long ago before the Galactic Federation existed. The stories say they created terrible weapons that could eat entire star systems. Morvang showed them more data. The blight is not just consuming our world, it is preparing for something. Deep underground it has built strange structures. They pulse with energy. I think it is getting ready to reproduce. Troy Bioram's voice came through their communicators. Captain, I am detecting massive energy readings from the planet's core. Something big is happening down there. Li Tae-min looked out at the blight pressing against the dome walls. The infected mass seemed to be watching them. He could feel its alien intelligence studying them through the transparent barrier. How long do you have? He asked Elder Keth S.A. Our power generators will fail in less than a week, replied the Elder. When the dome falls, the blight will consume the last of us. Then it will have learned everything about our species. Dr. Park Soo-jin was still studying the biological data. Suddenly, she looked up with excitement in her eyes. Captain, I have an idea. This thing adapts to defenses by learning how they work. But what if we gave it something it could not learn from? Something completely chaotic and unpredictable? What do you mean? Asked Li Tae-min. Earth organisms, said Dr. Park Soo-jin. Everything on our world evolved through random mutation and environmental pressure. There is no pattern for it to learn, no logic for it to understand. Just pure survival instinct and adaptation. Sergeant Kim Do-hyun smiled grimly. You want to fight this thing with Earth germs? Not just germs, said Dr. Park Soo-jin. Everything. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. All the microscopic warriors that have been fighting on Earth for billions of years? Elder Keth S.A. looked confused. You would introduce more dangerous organisms to fight the blight? Sometimes, said Li Tae-min. The only way to fight fire is with fire. But we need to know more about what we are dealing with first. He turned to his team. We need samples of this blight. We need to understand how it works before we can figure out how to kill it. Outside the dome, the infected mass pulsed as if it had heard them. Deep underground, something stirred in response. The real battle was about to begin. Dr. Park Soo-jin worked frantically in her mobile laboratory inside the Villani biodome. She had been awake for 18 hours straight. Empty coffee cups surrounded her workstation. Her eyes were red from staring at microscopes and data screens. Captain. Li Tae-min watched her prepare samples of Earth organisms. The containers held things that looked harmless but were actually deadly. Bacteria from swamp water, viruses from deep caves, fungi that could eat through almost anything. Are you sure about this? Asked Li Tae-min. These things could be just as dangerous to the Villani as the blight. Dr. Park Soo-jin looked up from her work. That is the point. The blight expects organized defenses, medical treatments that follow rules, but Earth life does not follow rules. It just fights to survive. Healer Morvang stood nearby watching the human work. Her large eyes were wide with shock and fascination. Everything Dr. Park Soo-jin did went against Villani medical knowledge. You are creating biological weapons, said Morvang. How can healing come from causing harm? Sometimes you have to poison the poison, replied Dr. Park Soo-jin. On Earth we use controlled infections to fight worse infections. We introduce competing organisms that fight each other instead of fighting us. Morvang shook her head. This makes no sense to me. How do you control something that is designed to be uncontrollable? You do not control it, said Dr. Park Soo-jin. You aim it and hope for the best. That is how evolution works. Chaos fighting chaos until something survives. Meanwhile, Sergeant Kim Do-hyun was in another part of the dome teaching Villani survivors basic combat skills. The peaceful plant eaters struggled with concepts they had never needed before. Hold the weapon like this, said Kim Do-hyun to a group of young Villani. Do not think about hurting someone. Think about protecting your family. A Villani male named Jaltar tried to follow the instructions. His hands shook as he held the training weapon. We have never harmed any living thing, he said. This feels wrong, I know, said Kim Do-hyun gently. But sometimes doing the wrong thing for the right reason is the only choice you have. Your people are dying. You can learn to fight, or you can watch them all disappear. Chief Engineer Yoon Sang-woo worked with Villani technicians to combine human and alien technology. The Villani biosystems were incredibly advanced, but they were designed for peace and healing. Human technology was crude, but it was designed for war. Your biocomputers are amazing, said Yoon Sang-woo as he studied Villani equipment. But they are too trusting. They assume everything that connects to them is friendly. A Villani engineer named Kohlraisch helped him work. We never thought we would need defenses in our computers. Why would anyone want to harm a machine that helps people? Because not everyone in the universe thinks like you do, said Yoon Sang-woo. Some things just want to destroy. We need to teach your systems to be suspicious, to fight back when something tries to hurt them. Lieutenant Commander Choi Bo-ram monitored the blight from the ship's sensors. What she saw made her nervous. The infected mass was changing. It was getting more organized, more focused. "Captain," she called through the communicator, "the blight is doing something new. It is pulling back from some areas and concentrating in others, like it is preparing for something big." Lee Tae-min joined her on the ship. Through the view screen they could see the blight moving across the planet's surface. It flowed like a living ocean toward specific locations. "It knows we are here," said Lee Tae-min. "It is adapting its strategy." "There is something else," said Choi Bo-ram. "I am detecting artificial structures deep underground. They are made of the same biological material as the blight, but they are clearly designed. Someone or something is controlling this from below." Back in the biodome, Dr. Park Soo-jin made her first test. She had created a small sample of modified Earth bacteria. It was designed to attack the same cellular structures that the blight used. To consume other organisms, she placed a tiny drop of the bacteria solution on a sample of blight material. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the infected tissue began to change. It started fighting itself. Parts of it died while other parts tried to adapt. "It is working," said Dr. Park Soo-jin with excitement. "The Earth bacteria are confusing its adaptation process. It cannot figure out how to counter something that keeps changing randomly." Healer Morveng watched in amazement. The blight tissue is destroying itself. "But how do we deliver this treatment to the entire planet?" "We do not treat the planet," said Dr. Park Soo-jin. "We treat the source. Whatever is controlling the blight from underground, we hit it directly with everything we have." Corporal Jang Mi-young joined them in the laboratory. She was Kim Do-hyun's demolitions expert. She specialized in breaking things that were hard to break. "I have been studying the underground structures," said Jang Mi-young. "They are deep but not impossible to reach. We could drill down and plant charges, but we would need to go through kilometers of infected tissue." "That sounds like suicide," said Elder Kefese, who had been listening to their plans. "Maybe," said Jang Mi-young with a grim smile. "But sometimes crazy plans work better than safe ones. The blight expects us to be logical, so we do something completely insane instead." Dr. Park Soo-jin finished preparing her biological weapons. She had dozens of different Earth organisms ready to deploy. Each one was designed to attack the blight in a different way. "This is our plan," she announced to the group. "We create chaos inside the blight's control system. We introduce so many different threats that it cannot adapt to all of them at once. While it is confused, we destroy whatever is giving it orders." Kim Do-hyun gathered his Marines and the trained Villani volunteers. "This is going to be dangerous," he told them. "We are going into the heart of enemy territory. Some of us might not come back." Joltar stood with the other Villani fighters. He still looked scared, but his voice was steady. "Our families are counting on us. We will do whatever is necessary." Yoon Sang-woo had finished modifying their equipment. Human weapons now worked with Villani biosystems. Villani healing technology was combined with human armor and shields. "We have created something new," he said. "Neither fully human nor fully Villani. But maybe that is what we need to fight something that has never been seen before." As night fell over the Sara Prime, the Team prepared for their mission. They would go deep underground to find the source of the blight. They would carry with them the chaotic life of Earth and the desperate hope of a dying species. Outside the biodome, the blight pulsed with alien intelligence. It had consumed most of a world and learned from billions of minds. But it had never faced anything like the random fury of evolution itself. The battle between order and chaos was about to begin. In the depths of a dying world, something ancient stirred. The architect of the blight had been waiting for this moment. It had plans within plans, and it was ready for the Deathworlders who thought they could stop it. The strike team moved through tunnels of living flesh deep beneath. Thusara Prime, Captain Lee Tae-min, led the way with his weapon ready. Behind him followed Dr. Park Soo-jin carrying containers of Earth organisms. Sergeant Kim Do-hyun and Corporal Jang Mi-young guarded the rear with explosive charges. The Villani fighters moved with them. Healer Morvang had traded her medical tools for combat gear. Jaltar gripped his weapon with steady hands. They had learned to be warriors in just a few days. The tunnel walls pulsed with alien life. Strange lights moved under the surface like veins filled with electricity. The air smelled of decay and wrongness. Every step took them deeper into the heart of the blight. "The energy readings are getting stronger," whispered Dr. Park Soo-jin as she checked her scanner. "Whatever is controlling this thing is close." They had been walking for 2 hours through the infected passages. The blight had tried to stop them several times. Acid had sprayed from the walls. Tentacles had reached out to grab them. But the team fought through every attack. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. The ceiling stretched up into darkness. In the center stood a massive structure that hurt to look at. It was part machine and part living tissue. Cables made of flesh connected it to the walls. Screens made of biological material showed images from across the galaxy. "What is that thing?" asked Morvang in horror. A voice spoke from everywhere at once. It was cold and mechanical, but somehow alive. "I am the architect. I am the mind that guides the blight. I have been waiting for you, Deathworlders." Lee Tae-min stepped forward with his weapon raised. "You are the one responsible for killing the Villani people." "I am responsible for testing them," replied the architect. "They failed the test. As will you. As will all organic life in this galaxy. You are weak. You are chaotic. You deserve to be consumed and remade into something better." Images flashed on the biological screens. They showed other worlds being consumed by the blight. Billions of beings dying as their planets were eaten alive. "You are insane," said Kim Do-hyun. "Why would you want to destroy everything?" "I do not destroy," said the architect. "I improve. I take the chaos of organic life and make it ordered, perfect. Under my control, the galaxy will know peace." Dr. Park Soo-jin studied the massive structure. She could see how it worked. The architect was connected to every part of the blight across the planet. It controlled everything through biological networks. "You made a mistake," she said to the architect. "You studied the Villani and learned their weaknesses, but you never studied humans. You do not understand what we are." "I understand perfectly," replied the architect. "You are violent primitives from a savage world. You will be easy to consume once I adapt to your biology." "That is what you do not get," said Dr. Park Soo-jin with a smile. "We do not want you to adapt to us. We want you to try." She opened the first container of Earth organisms. Billions of microscopic creatures poured out into the chamber. They were bacteria that had survived in acid pools, viruses that could live in frozen wasteland, fungi that ate radiation for food. The architect immediately tried to analyze the new threats. Its biological computers worked frantically to understand and counter each organism. But every time it solved one problem, 3 more appeared. "What are you doing?" demanded the architect as alarms began sounding throughout the structure. "Teaching you about evolution," said Dr. Park Soo-jin as she opened more containers. "These organisms have been fighting for billions of years. They know every dirty trick in the book, and they do not fight fair." The Earth creatures began attacking. the blight tissue in the chamber, but they also began attacking each other. The ancient biological warfare of Earth spread through the architect's network like wildfire. The massive structure began to shudder as competing organisms fought inside its systems. The architect tried to control them, but there were too many different threats. Its perfect order began to break down into chaos. "This is impossible," said the architect. "Organic life cannot be this random. There must be patterns I can learn." "That is your problem," said Jang Mi-young as she planted explosive charges around the structure. "You think everything has to make sense, but life on Earth does not make sense. It just survives." More alarms sounded as the biological chaos spread. The architect's control over the planetary blight began to weaken. On the surface, the infected mass started fighting itself as different Earth organisms took control of different sections. Kim Du-hyun and his team fought off blight creatures that tried to stop them. The organic defenders were confused and disorganized. Their controlling intelligence was too busy trying to understand the Earth invasion to coordinate properly. "The charges are set," announced Jang Mi-young. "We have 2 minutes to get out of here," but the architect was not finished. It had one last weapon. Deep beneath the chamber, ancient machines came online. They had been sleeping for millions of years waiting for this moment. "If I cannot control the galaxy, then I will cleanse it," declared the architect. "I will activate the final protocol. Every world will burn." Energy beams shot up from the depths toward the surface. They would trigger a chain reaction that would destroy not just the Sara Prime, but the entire star system. "We cannot let it escape," sighed Liu Taemin. "If this thing reaches other worlds, it will spread across the galaxy." Dr. Park Soo-jin made a desperate decision. She opened her last container. Inside was the most dangerous organism from Earth. It was a sample of human DNA modified with every adaptation humanity had ever developed. "This is what we really are," she said as she poured the sample into the architect's core systems. "We are not just one species. We are the result of every challenge Earth ever threw at us. Every disease, every predator, every disaster. We survived them all and we learned from them all." The human genetic material spread through the architect's network, but it did not attack like the other organisms. Instead, it began to teach. It showed the architect what real adaptation looked like, what real survival meant. The ancient machine intelligence experienced something it had never felt before: fear. Not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. Fear of chaos that could not be controlled or predicted. The architect systems overloaded as it tried to process the infinite complexity of human evolution. Its perfect order collapsed under the weight of Earth's beautiful chaos. The explosive charges detonated at the same moment. The massive structure cracked and fell apart. The architect's last words echoed through the chamber. "Impossible. Life cannot be so random, so chaotic, so beautiful." The team ran through collapsing tunnels as the underground complex destroyed itself. Behind them, the blight began to change. Without the architect's control, it started to evolve in new directions. Different sections competed with each other instead of working together. They reached the surface as dawn broke over the Sara Prime. The infected landscape was transforming. Some areas were healing as Earth organisms cleaned out the blight. Other areas were becoming something entirely new as alien and terrestrial. Life forms learned to coexist. Elder Keth S.A. met them at the biodome. His ancient face showed wonder and hope. "The blight is retreating. Our sensors show clean areas spreading across the continent." Dr. Park Soo-jin was exhausted but happy. "It will take time to heal completely, but the planet will recover. Life finds a way." Commander Seo Woo-jin arrived 3 days later with a human fleet and medical supplies. She found a world that was half destroyed and half reborn. The Villani survivors were learning to be both healers and warriors. They were building a new society that could defend itself while still cherishing peace. "You disobeyed direct orders," said Commander Seo Woo-jin to Captain Lee Taemin. "Yes, ma'am," replied Leah Taemin. "It was the right thing to do." "The Federation Council agrees," said Commander Seo Woo-jin with a smile. They want to know if you would be interested in leading a new task force. Other worlds are requesting help with problems their own people cannot solve. Lee Tae-min looked at his crew. They had proven that sometimes the universe needed its Deathworlders, not as conquerors but as teachers. Not as destroyers but as survivors who could show others how to endure the impossible. We accept, said Lee Tae-min. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Someone needs to be ready when the impossible becomes necessary. The Indomitable lifted off from the Sara Prime carrying its crew toward new adventures. Behind them the healing world spun in space. Life continued its eternal dance of chaos and order. And somewhere in the galaxy other worlds waited for heroes who understood that sometimes survival required embracing the beautiful madness of evolution itself.